This video is brought to you by Harold Sack, who gave me a massive 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Laelia versus Trostani, Falco Spara, and Glab. Interesting mix of commanders, and we are not looking too good in the opener, so I'm going to risk a mulligan. Into a 2-lander, that's actually a turn 2 Laelia, so hopefully we can get into more lands off that. This is risky, but if we can keep our commander in for a few turns, then it should be alright, hopefully. Even a few lands off the top will really help us. Exploration for Glab allows him into 2 lands for the turn. Elvish Mystic from Trostani. And we draw into a Haunted Cloak. Got a Fervor on the previous turn, so we've got haste on our commander straight off the bat. Let's get it down. And I hope we don't exile a land off the top straight away and then don't draw into lands for a few turns, because we do need to attack in as soon as possible, get it buffed up so we can keep attacking with Laelia. And of course it is a land. A Valakut would have been a tap land anyway, but that's that gone for the rest of the game. So maybe if I was worried about lands, could have gone for the Haunted Cloak or the Party Thrasher, something like that. But like I said, I wanted to get this going as soon as possible to buff up the power and toughness so we can more easily attack. Glab into play is a Death Toucher, so we're not going to be able to swing in over there again. A Worldly Tutor during the main phase, and searched out a Starnheim Aspirant. There's an Ancient Tomb of his own here as well. Managed to draw into another land anyway, thankfully, but I'll see if I can exile one here. I'll swing in at the Celestia player first. And we see a Sol Ring off the top, so I'm going to accelerate our mana nicely. So drop a land, Ancient Tomb turns into Sol Ring, and then we could get out the Bonehorde Dracosaur, I suppose, and that allows us to potentially get into more lands as well, keep up the land drops. Yeah, why not? It's efficient mana-wise as well. Surveil 2 from Glab. Decides to throw away a Noxious Gearhulk, and he gets down Yavimaya, so we don't have to carry on shocking ourselves with Ancient Tomb if we don't need to. Use the Underground Mortuary to surveil another land into the bin, and then decides on reanimating with Noxious Gearhulk, so we get some interaction out of our opponent's hand. And down goes the Dracosaur, which I dare say might have gone on Laelia anyway. So probably still worth that play last turn. We can actually destroy our opponent's Gearhulk with the Abrade if we want to, but I'm not sure how much reanimation he's going to have. I imagine quite a lot if it's a Surveil deck. Starnheim Aspirant is going to make the Angels cost less. So clearly this is some kind of Celestia Angel build. Unless he's just trying to set up combos, a life gain combo of some kind. Another land for us, so I'm wondering if we can clear some creatures out with the Volcanic Torrent now. It'll be very telling if he decides to block with the Gearhulk. I'll assume that there's either a board wipe or more reanimation incoming. We don't have any hexproof available, we might draw into some. Let's go to the left again, see if he's got any instant speed spot removal available. He is holding up priority. And there we see a Call Forth the Tempest, which is unfortunately a bit too expensive for us. Oh, and I had it in my head this was a 5/5 for some stupid reason. Oh, that's a silly mistake. Yeah, but the fact that he wants to block with it is telling. Yeah, I thought this was going to be buffed up to a 6/6, so I'm actually going to abrade this. I want to up the number of spells we cast into the torrent anyway, although I'm not sure 3 spells is going to be relevant. Yeah, this is a waste of an abrade, but we'll use it anyway here. Screws up the mana a bit as well, so looks as though we're just going to be going for something like Throes of Chaos now. Could have had damage through to my opponent, but like I said, we now have the knowledge of him being willing to block with the Noxious Gearhulk, so I'm expecting some reanimation. So let's go for a land and go for Throes of Chaos as well, which is a cascade into a free spell. And again, Glab is holding up interaction, so maybe there's some counter magic. Apparently not. And there we see a Chaos Warp, so I think I will go Chaos Warp onto the commander here. So obviously if I was going to do all that anyway, then it would have been 7 more points of commander damage on my opponent here, getting him up to 10 commander. But screwed up the turn here, unfortunately. And they get their commander Chaos Warped into a bounce land, and bounce a land other than the Simic Growth Chamber. That was the Yavimaya. And then Assassin's Trophy, he always had an answer for our commander as it pans out. That can go in the command zone. This is where the haste is going to be useful. So next turn we'll have at least 3 mana. If we decide to get Laelia out again, which I dare say I will. Forcing our opponent to replay the commander. Still has 4 mana held up though. Then it's crop rotation. Sacrificing the command tower, he'll be able to put a land straight into play. And I think that was just a wooded foothills that he got into play there. Must have been missing a fetch. Oh no, he has a few fetches that he's cracked so far. The Bant player, might be the first spell he's cast actually, threats around every corner. Manifest Dread, and when a face down permanent enters, search for a basic, put it in. So he does have a 2/2 manifested creature. Survival of the fittest. And he does have green mana off his lands thanks to the Yavimaya Cradle. His colours are a bit weird at the moment. Okay, we're getting pretty lucky on the land drops. Let's go for our commander again. And I think I'll test the Celestia player on having some spot removal here. 3/3 versus a 2/2, made sure to double check this time. And we reveal a Furious Rise, which I'll probably play. We can actually go for Party Thrasher first. So yeah, that's 2 mana for this, and then tap this down into the 3 mana enchantment. And this way we get more impulse draw off the top. Does mean that we're tapped out for a turn, but I don't think that's going to matter with the board in the state it's in at the moment. So next turn we can discard a card and exile the top 2, but only play one of them. And with this we're not going to control a creature with power 4 or greater next turn, thanks to losing Laelia. But that should start the impulse draw on the turn after. Lumra is going to reanimate all those lands he's been throwing in the bin, and then taps down Glab for a Surveil afterwards. There's an Alchemist Refuge he could have gotten into. Razaketh up the Beanstalk has ended up in there as well. 3 cards in hand. Lumra currently a 15/15 with reach. And there is a Dread Return. Goes onto the Noxious Gearhulk, and down goes Laelia again. Really missing Hexproof or Shroud here. Hide in plain sight. Look at the top 5 cards, cloak 2 of them. And that is a couple of face down cards, so more Rampant Growths for the Bant player. Trustani Celestia's Voice into play for the first time. A Daring Discovery will allow us to explore, but it's no good at the moment. And I don't think it's going to be good, so I might actually have to discard it into the Thrasher. And then I imagine we're going to have to block the Lumra next turn with the Thrasher, or we're going to lose near enough half of our life total. And 2 more lands, so just exile one of those and we can play it. So are we just replaying our commander again here? I think so. And then, yeah, if we go mana into Ancient Tomb, we can afford 3 mana after this. And unfortunately, without any unblockable for Laelia, I'm just going to have to hold it back, I think. So let's play the Fervor, just in case there's any decent creatures we draw into. Surveilling, we've got Polluted Delta in the bin now, and an Arcane Signet. Sowing Myca Spawn, I imagine, has been kicked. So search for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and exiling a land, again going after us, with the, where is it? Ancient Tomb going down to the Myca Spawn. And it's only a matter of time before Field of the Dead shows up. Be surprising if the Lands Matter player doesn't win this one. Then throws out Toxrill, the Corrosive, so there goes our creatures. And Dread returns, sacrificing the zombies, I imagine. So Grey Merchant of Asphodel comes down, bumps him up to 53. The rest of us go to mid-20s, early 30s. Then 5/4 Menace swings to the right, probably willing to lose this, like I said before. And as we thought, the 17/17 Lumra swings into us. Double blocking on the Gearhulk, I wouldn't do that. We have to throw away our Thrasher, although we'll still have the Thrasher, although we won't control the Laelia by next turn, thanks to Toxrill most likely, so might as well throw away Laelia. I imagine we've already lost this one. The cards that went into the bin, by the way, the face down ones, Curator, Beastie, and Soul of Theros. And Ixodron is going to turn everything face down, so yeah, I suppose it's a good thing that Laelia is now in the command zone. Although I don't know if we can even afford her again now. Sacrificing a creature to the Toxrill to draw. Now if you were always going to go Ixodron, maybe you just top decked into this, but if you had that in hand, why would you put the Gearhulk in the bin? Like I say, maybe you just drew into it. Cracking a fetch, maybe another one into Field of the Dead. This does mean that Volcanic Torrent can take out pretty much every creature in play, because we'll cast this and the Cascade spell, and that's 2 damage on everything. Hauntwood Shrieker. Survival of the Fittest has been activated here, discarding the Sigarda, and searched out an Elvish Piper, which is about to go down to the board wipe if we have our way. A geological appraiser. If we were to discover into a rock, then we could go on to afford the volcanic torrent, but there's obviously no guarantee of that. If we want to take out the 3-drop or the 3 toughness creature, then we could go for the cloak and then volcanic torrent. Yeah, I think we'll do that. There's too much value to be made out of the Hauntwood Shrieker. Priority still being held up on us by Glarb. We are unfortunately giving Glarb his creatures back here, but we need to do something to try and get back into this. Cascade is a Valakut Exploration, so that's going to be a bit of card advantage at least, seeing as how the Furious Rise has done nothing so far. And that's a Lightning Bolt on everything, because we've cast 3 spells this turn, and that's a one-sided board wipe. And I'm concerned with haste, so for the sake of 2 damage, I'm just not going to bother going into the red zone here. Sort of face down, Luminous Broodmoth, go into the graveyard. Breach the multiverse, so we've just set up the Glarb, as I was fearing. We're having an effect on the game at least, but all we're really doing is setting everyone else up to do their stuff. They were always going to mill a bunch with this and be able to get stuff off it regardless of if we wipe the board. I do spot an Avacyn over here. That has the Celestia player scoop. And there's a Skyclave Apparition, goes after the Fervor, leaves the Valakut Exploration alone at least. But he's got his Toxrill back, and yeah, I mean, I can appreciate the other guy scooping, to be honest. Takes our Wild Magic Sorcerer. Necromancy is more reanimation, with which he grabs Lumra again. This is bracket 3, by the way, and this was always my fear, stuff like this with the bracket system, that you can still have massively one-sided games, even if you partake in a bracket system, as we obviously do now in Commander. So it's a bunch of Field of the Dead triggers to all the lands that just came down to the Lumra. Glarb Calamity's Augur back into play. Zombie to the right. And Party Thrasher goes down to the Toxrill. It still had the slime counter on it, so a second one will kill it off as a face down 2-2. I'm not sure how many board wipes I have left. One got exiled previously. Call forth the Tempest. We obviously just used one, but we're not going to... Well, there's another one. Vanquish the Horde. Wipes the board again, but we're not going to be able to battle against Field of the Dead, I wouldn't have thought. The problem with lands matter. Even if you blow this up, you're going to just see it re-enter off a Crucible of Worlds or something, or Lumra. Anyway, Vanquish the Horde wipes everything out, leaves us with an Illusion token. That's because of the Skyclave Apparition that got blown up. And for the first time, Falco Spara re-enters play, so maybe we can get a 2v1 going, but this guy's at 51 life thanks to that Grey Merchant of Asphodel. How much is our commander? It's currently 9 mana, so we can't even afford it. Let's play Geological Appraiser. Thought it'd be fun to recreate this deck and put some more Cascade and Discover type effects in it. But obviously we need to actually keep our commander in play for that to be useful, which we have struggled with during this game. So Discover 3 upon entry, and there we see ourselves and Atali's Favour, which will discover us again. So we might as well put this on the Illusion token, seeing as how it's going to swing in this turn. Another play I could have made was gone for playing and cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble to see what gets exiled underneath here, but we don't know what's on top of the library, so I don't suppose it matters. They light up the stage, more Impulse Draw, so you can imagine what would be happening here if Laelia was in play. She'd be getting bigger and bigger, but we're just trying to hit lands, so there we go. There is a land for the turn. See what we exile underneath the enchantment. That is a Chandra, which it's up against a flyer, but I think we get down Chandra here. This is double the power of a creature, could double it up to an 8/8, but I think I want to get Chandra down. We can always make more mana with that if we decide to. So let's do just that. We'll make 2 mana, and we can't guarantee that we're going to have the mana from Chandra next turn, so I think we have to go for playing and cracking the Bauble. Although we can actually afford our commander next turn at the moment, but I'm just going to assume that we're going to have a big pile of creatures to try and dodge with Laelia, and we don't have unblockable at the moment. Yeah, it's always best to just get more mana in when in doubt, I think. Which triggers the landfall again. We're not going to be able to make use of whatever this thing is. An Apex of Power. Could have done with maybe drawing that next turn, but this is the trouble with Impulse Draw, like I said before. You do end up losing spells, So only 4 damage onto our opponent. And we do have a big enough creature now at least, so Furious Rise is going to exile something at the beginning of the end step. Valakut is gonna... is it a shock with this? No, it's 1 damage per card. I suppose a shock would be really good. Underneath this is Tavern Brawler, which we will need our commander in play to make use of. That is a Metamorphosis Fanatic, so I think that's just 2 mana and it enters and reanimates something, if my memory serves me. And goes after the Toxrill again. That does enter with a lifelink counter on it, 7/7 lifelink. So some kind of exile from the white player would be useful. Then a Muldrifter, he's got 1 card in hand, about to be 3. And then Victimize is able to grab you-know-who. We can get 2 creatures with that, can't he? So the Grey Merchant of Asphodel is back out again. Unfortunately, he's going to have chump blockers in the form of zombies. I was hoping that maybe I could get him to block with the Toxrill onto this, and then maybe we Flame Slash the rest of it, but doesn't look as though that's going to happen, and this will be a lot weaker by then anyway, thanks to the slugs. So straight after a board wipe, there's a bunch of zombies back in play. Luminate Primordial, that is a Swords to Plowshares on each opponent. So our opponent should probably go after our Appraiser, just in case we can discover with it again. And plus this is more power to deal to this guy. Yeah, he actually leaves our creatures alone. It is a May ability apparently, so that's good. Exiles the Toxrill. Never have to deal with that again. And then Teferi's Time Twist to exile more stuff. Hopefully the Lumra will be excellent. So the Bant player making a difference to the game as well. And Falco swings over to the left. Might be that the commander damage is relevant. And yeah, the Primordial re-enters and exiles Lumra. Currently a 28/28. Unless this guy's got something to say about it. He is tapping mana. Slams in a Jim-Gitaxias. So that's going to have to be a Flame Slash onto that, I think. He's going to have to discard the 3 cards that are in his hand. So we'll see if there was anything useful there. Had him discard Valkyrie's Call, which I haven't seen played yet, I don't think. Portal to Phyrexia, probably not that great against the zombie tokens. And then a Split Up. See what we can do this turn, if anything. See a Mind Stone. I think we're probably just getting down our commander here. Us cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble might make it so that, yeah, I think we can actually get down the Mind Stone this turn. And get down our commander still. So minus down on this thing. And that is 4 damage from the Chandra straight onto that, so he can't refill his hand. Unless he's got yet something else. Tapping down mana, 1 card left in hand. And that is an Urza's Cave. Does the Glacial Chasm protect your creatures? I can't remember. Or is it just damage to you? I can't see in the chat, I just had a look for what he tutored for, I can't see. Shifting Woodland might be it. Yeah, lands decks have just received so much support in, well, for many, many years now. They're just way too good for bracket 3, I think, most of the time. Makes the Shifting Woodland a copy of something, making it a copy of the Razaketh, so what, is he going to sacrifice this in response to get a tutor? Sacrifice something there, I'm guessing it's one of the zombie tokens. Allows Jin-Gitaxias to go down. Let's play the Mind Stone. Suppose I could crack Mind Stone, try and get into something, but let's just risk the Laelia. And the best we can hope for is chaining off with a lot of Impulse Draw again and buffing this up enough to actually do something. Not looking hopeful though. So we get to exile with the Furious Rise again. Razaketh gets rid of Grey Merchant. Just a matter of time before the game's over. We see a Professional Facebreaker underneath the enchantment. There was an Entomb there. I can't keep graveyards open against a graveyard deck. He entombs a Valgavoth into the graveyard. And of course the demon was the Shifting Woodland, so Shifting Woodland, currently a land. Timeless Witness to drag something else out of the graveyard. And there, a Living Death ready to destroy the commander again. So gets all his stuff back. Yeah, command zone, whatever. You see why he was eager to get rid of our haste now. We've got Wild Magic Sorcerer, there's Party Thrasher, Kedis, probably not relevant, Bonehorde Dracosaur, and then over here, Azusa, some Dorks, Sir Comrade, Gitrog Monster, E-Witness can just grab back, and he is doing, the Living Dead, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. He's got his Jin-Gitaxias back, so he never cared about losing that. Loot for even more landfall. Can reanimate something with this if he wants to. Muldrotha to just keep making use of that graveyard. We've really missed on the graveyard hate this game, unfortunately. Noxious Gearhulk and Razaketh in play for real this time. Skyclave Apparition could exile something though, probably Azusa. Instead it is pointed at the Eternal Witness. I mean, that makes sense as well if he's going to keep looping it. Field of the Dead a bit less relevant now with all the creatures in play. We're really making use of the white player's exile here though. Alright, so the Timeless Witness has been reanimated off the Metamorphosis Fanatic, and that is trying to return the Breach the Multiverse. Currently stood at 112 life. And Sir Conrad's going to finish us off at this point. We're at 8 and 4 life. Noxious Gearhulk goes after our Wild Magic Sorcerer. The Living Death goes back into hand. And then a Damnation to wipe the board, ready to reanimate everything again, you have to assume. That will just trigger Sir Conrad enough, won't it? Yeah, so there we go. A bunch of Sir Conrad triggers on the stack, and that will be enough to end it. So there we are. Yeah, that's a shame. I'd like to have done more that game. I'd like to have seen more of our deck, but like I said before, this is proof that the bracket system doesn't really work, especially on Magic Online, where you can't really converse with your opponents. But for those of you who like your landfall and reanimation decks, I hope this was a good one for you. If you did enjoy it, then please consider leaving a like and or subscribing over on Patreon. And a massive thank you to those of you who support me financially already. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.